Well, welcome, Marilyn. It's such a pleasure to have you here. We are excited that you agreed to be a part of this for us and recognize your expertise. So one of the things we're wondering is right now they're saying that we're having what you would consider a youth mental health crisis. And so what we're seeing is they're saying that we're seeing the suicide rates are increasing, particularly for Black and white kids. Um, and they've decreased for Asians, but Black, white, Latinx, they've gone up. One of the things that we're also seeing right now is kids are a heightened emotionality, right? So a lot of kids are showing up. We have more 504 plans because of anxiety. We're seeing more kids who are coming in exhibiting dysregulated behaviors. There are more fights. There's more acting out behaviors. There's more internalizing behaviors where we're seeing the cutting, hair picking, and other things happening. So one of my questions for you is I just mentioned what the problem was. I was wondering if you could talk about, what are the top three things that you believe are influencing school-age children's abilities to regulate and to cope with what's happening, and even to be in relationship with themselves and with other people right now?
Yeah, thank you again for having me. I really appreciate that you honor that you guys are have me here talk. And this is definitely something that I find as important as you are. And I'm seeing it right in my private practice that I'm seeing. I see a lot of adults now, but a lot of parents talk about their children dysregulating. So we talk a lot about parenting stuff. I do have young adults who are having a difficult time, and some teenagers in there as well. Um, I would say that right now, we really dismiss the impact of COVID on developmental stages that a lot of children had. So I think what we're really seeing with all these impact is really the aftermath of what was COVID and how we really how are we prepared for it, right? But at the same time, we really didn't do a good job of taking care and as adults, but also then being able to teach children what they need to teach in that time. Children thrive when they are exploring, when they're asking questions, when they get to go out and do things. And we shut down for 3 years, right? So that's 3 years of the developmental stage that they didn't necessarily get a lot of the things that they needed. And then to be put right back to the same spaces and being expected to act a certain kind of way without getting that foundation is really unfair for the children. And there's a lot of anger that's sort of in there. Children also work best, I think, when they observe. So a lot of times, I think as adults, we want to like teach children by auditory methods, and they really are very observant. So really teaching by modeling is really great. So really, truly, one of the, I think, factors affecting children is going to be around adults being able to regulate themselves, right? And being able to show, oh, when I feel upset, this is what I do, right? Maybe I take a deep breath, or maybe I take some ice, or drink some water, right? Here's what you can do. Um, there's a lot of like mentalizing of emotions versus they need to be really more in the body, right? So there's that. I also think, I think about teenagers, like there's no really space for them to be teenagers. There's, there's no spaces that are really safe for them to enjoy, again, to explore, to make conclusions, to ask questions about things. Everything is sort of really tightly wound in a lot of ways. Um, I know that sometimes people will say like social media has been a component for, um, you know, people not being focused or things like that. But I think it's more about the curation of the social media. Social media has its time and place. Um, if if it's really well curated, you can get education around like how to take care of yourselves. You can get community, right? Some of the best things I've seen now in social media play out is that if someone's like, "Hey, I think I might have ADHD," you know, I feel this way. And some people might say, well, that's just a TikTok thing, right? But if someone feels that way, then they identify there's something to explore there. And I think that wouldn't necessarily have happened if there wasn't a community of people talking about how the way they feel and things like that. So I don't think all social media is bad, but definitely to be curated in a lot of ways. And then, of course, stigma, right? The society we live in is so about productivity and it's so about staying busy is king, and being relaxing and enjoying time is seen as lazy. Um, but relaxing has to be like included in the day, and especially for children, right? We ask so much of them that we don't allow them to play and enjoy. So I'll leave it at that there.
You say we ask so much of children. One of the things I tell anyone is during COVID, we asked children to make more adjustments than probably the adults in their lives, right? With in school, out of school, present, time, like, just had to make adjustment and we didn't want to hear it. We didn't want to talk about the losses that came along with that or the grief, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things it just makes me think about is how do we make space for kids to be kids, right? One of the things we're seeing as you and I are having this conversation with school age kids is, now there's this push that it's not about you going to school and learning how to be in relationship with other kids and yourself. It's more about can you achieve and play catch up and do all of this, that there is no room, right? When you think about what's getting cut, it's the things that we would say would be childhood. Like, are we doing PE? Are we having, sexual education
Music.
classes, right? Those things, right? And if you just think about like, it feels like that's what's being cut. And so what I hear you saying is some of the things that adults could start doing is number one, you mentioned that adults could start modeling for kids how to regulate, being honest, showing them how are we as adults dealing with our emotions, right? When they're difficult, when we're having difficult feelings, even thinking about how are we even in relationship with each other? Are we showing up open and compassionate and extending grace? Also, it would be not overfilling a kid's schedule. That's what I'm hearing you say. Make space for unstructured play, right? One of the things we talked about before is play no phone time. I call it PNP. Do we have
Hmm.
it? Can we have it, right? What are some other things that you would encourage adults to either, be embody themselves or encourage them to get a kid to participate in to help with regulation?
I think having hobbies as an adult too, playing as an adult as well. Like again, this idea of modeling is so important. You could tell someone like, "Oh, this is important," but they really don't understand it until they see it in practice. Being creative. Somewhere along the lines of being an adult, we kind of fell into this trap that we need to be serious and we needed to, always work and work but if we that's what we're teaching children. We're really making little the same things, modeling them to be that. And so if we really ourselves adults start to do things like, you know, pick up an instrument, go outside for walks, do little things that seem stare at the sky and make shapes with the clouds. As silly as that sounds, right? Like that could be enough for a child to tap into their imagination and then for the adult too to feel calm. A calm adult creates a calm child too. You can bring that child into your calm as opposed to you being also very dysregulated.
Yeah, you're talking about what we call co-regulation a lot, that people don't realize that a kid will regulate to the adult in the room, right? And so one of the things you're saying is like the best thing that we as adults could do right now is make sure we're emotionally healthy and regulated. Because what actually is going to happen is the kid is going to become attuned to us. And
Hmm.
that's the best gift we can give them. Oh, thank you. Anything else you want to share? That was great.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. It just, again, the self-care isn't luxurious. Like it's our right to relax. So I always want to stress that as much as I can.
It's our right, it's our, rest, the book by the Nat Bishop, Rest is Resistance, right? And how do we begin to recognize and teach? I read a quote where she talks about, I've met successful women, I've met brave women, I've met courageous women, I've met women who do marvelous things, but I've never met a rested woman. And at the end of the quote, she says, I'm striving to become one because a rested woman lasts longer than anything else that's out there.